It's been a long time coming. After so much time, it seems like Nakaba-sensei might finally reveal the truth about Elizabeth and what is really going on with her. I mean, we know that she is some form of reincarnation that continuously comes back after death, and we know Meliodas is tied to this somehow, but it seems like Nakaba-sensei might finally be ready to talk about it, which I'm pretty excited for, because even in the first 100 chapters of the series, it was implied in some points that there is something off about Elizabeth. She is definitely different than a normal person. And so, finally, after all of these chapters, so many weeks and months and years of waiting, it seems like we might finally get some information. Because we already know she's a reincarnation. We already know there is definitely a connection with her to the original Elizabeth 3,000 years ago. We know they're probably the same person. However, we don't know exactly what happened. But apparently, from what we're getting at the end of the chapter with Zeldaris, she is apparently a cursed goddess. Now, we don't know exactly when Zeldaris says cursed. We don't know if he's saying cursed because she led Meliodas down the wrong path, or according to him, because, Meliodas fell in love with her, or he's saying she's cursed because she is indeed cursed to probably continuously be reincarnated and come back. Now, we do know, thanks to the flashback arc we got recently, that Elizabeth kind of defied orders, and she went against what some of the superior officers said. And so because of that, she might have gotten punished, gotten in trouble, and maybe even cursed. So there could be a direct link thanks to what we saw happen 3,000 years ago and why Elizabeth is like she is now. Because we do know that she is a goddess, because we have seen her eyes change more recently than ever, but also we know that the identity and how they both look are very similar. Also, the names are very similar. And Meliodas having this attachment to her just shows that he deeply cares about her and probably thinks of her like, his lover, his woman. And he's even said this in the past, like 16 years ago. So when you look at it like that, we know something's off, and we know there's something going on there. We don't know if that's just how Elizabeth is as a person to constantly come back, or if this was a curse. And it's seeming like it's going to be a curse, because, what's going on with Meliodas is very similar. We know the man died, he came back as well, and he loses emotions. He loses a part of himself, and he comes back. Well, it seems like Elizabeth, when she dies, she starts completely over. It's like a reset button, basically, on her. So, there's a very similar thing going on with Meliodas and Elizabeth, and it looks like we're going to get some clarification to that very soon. Now, one of the big things about this chapter is focused on that. Elizabeth wondering what is going on. It's about time she asked these questions, because, if I saw these things building up over time, finding out through Zarathustra about, someone about me, like, 16 years ago, about Liz died around that time, and I was born, and then Meliodas was carrying me and cared deeply for me and all that, I'd think there's something off there. But then, finding out that, Diane and then King, they both had this, like, big flashback arc, and when they say they met someone like me 3,000 years ago that looks exactly like me with the same name and all that, I would start asking some questions as well. And it seems like finally Elizabeth wants to know. She's at that point where she wants to know what's going on. She's tired of being left in the dark. She wants to know what is really happening here. But the sad thing is, it seems like Meliodas himself is not ready to discuss this. So for whatever it is, whatever the case may be, why Meliodas doesn't want to talk about it, it's probably something very bad. I don't feel like it's just the point of her dying. That's probably why Meliodas is holding back and why he doesn't want to say anything. I think the fact of the reason why he doesn't want to say anything might have something to do with the curse. Who knows? Maybe if he says something or whatever, he says, yes, you're cursed or whatever, and he admits to it, maybe something happens to Meliodas, or something happens to Elizabeth. There could be something there, because if she is in fact cursed, I can see there being a repercussion if Meliodas was to say something to her, say like, oh yeah, we're Elizabeth in the past and all that, you're a goddess, and just saying everything. I feel like there would be something negative if he was to do something like that, if she is cursed, and why Meliodas acted like that, why he wasn't ready to say anything. Or maybe it's just like he doesn't want to talk about these complicated things to make, Elizabeth feel bad. Because, you gotta think about it like this. Meliodas, for 3,000 years, this man has been living with her, raising her repeatedly over and over again. It's like watching your lover die, come back, and forgetting about you. Completely forgetting about you, and you continue to just watch over her like a guardian angel, but she forgets about you, and she doesn't really recognize or know anything about you, but you continue to be with her. It would be a very painful existence, and I don't feel like Meliodas probably wants to let her know that. He probably doesn't want her to feel bad, and let her feel guilty for why he's been doing this for 3,000 years now with her. That could be another reason too. Regardless of whatever it is though, it looks like we are going to be getting those answers very soon. So let's move on to the two other parts of this chapter. The first part, the beginning of the chapter, Margaret is finally doing something, which I was like really surprised when I saw it in this chapter, and it seems like Margaret is a fighter, a very strong one at that, so that caught me by surprise. I don't know if it was ever implied before. If it was, forgive me, my mind is, slipping then, but I will say that seeing Margaret full set of armor, going out for Gilthunder, that was pretty badass, and I don't know if I'm supposed to interpret it like this, but from the conversation Elizabeth and Meliodas were having, it implied that Margaret already found Gilthunder and they were traveling together. Like I said, I don't know if that was exactly the big thing that I was supposed to get from that, or if that's what Meliodas thinks is going to happen. Regardless, though, Margaret, pretty badass at the beginning of this chapter. Love the design, love the armor, looks freaking awesome. Now, the last part of the chapter, which goes back into Elizabeth, Elizabeth is called in to help out Merlin. As we know, Merlin, she took a heavy blow thanks to what Zeldris did to her, and she is out of commission right now. She is completely ruined, and something needs to be done. Apparently, Hindi was called in. The man tried to help her out, and he's like, I can't really do anything. I don't even think the great elder druids can do anything at this moment. And so, Elizabeth was called in, because she's someone that is a goddess, as we know, and she has a superior power compared to the druids. And that's basically point blank saying that she is definitely Elizabeth from 3,000 years ago. So if you still are denying it for whatever reason, which I don't see how you could, if you're still denying it, you can't basically anymore. Because it's even stated in this chapter that she is better than a druid, which implies she is a goddess. Now, she could be a child or whatever, still, it's point blank stated that she is a goddess. So she is trying to help out Merlin, and she tries to lift the curse. And in doing so, she meets Zeldris, which the chapter concludes with. So I'm very interested to see what Zeldris has to say. What will he say to Elizabeth? Will he actually admit what really happened? Will he be very vague? I'm very curious. Is Nakaba-sensei ready to dive into this? That is the question. So, wherever it goes, I'm pretty excited. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.